Hey everyone, this is Alan here.
And Bree.
Coming at you today, we had a fun little chat. Alan, myself, I in the third person, got caught up with our lovely hog hunting trip. We talked a little bit about pigs being omnivorous and our thoughts there around meat-eating animals and fish.
Food consumption.
Yes. We came back to talking a little bit about expectations and our attachment to outcomes from expectations, as well as I've been reading a book called Dropping Ashes on the Buddha, and I talk a little bit about what I've learned from there and shared a quote from it. So I hope you enjoy. And
A big shout out to all of our listeners. If you don't already subscribe, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you'll get our new episodes coming in every time they're available. Leave a review would be huge. Recommend, pass it along to whoever might be interested. Send us questions. We'd love to talk about what you want to hear. And then a big thank you to Brianna Cote Photography for all of our photos and marketing materials, as well as Allison Band, and that's ALLYSON, for our intro and outro music. And without further ado, here's our show.
hey, Bree.
What's going on?
It's good to see you. Good to hear your voice. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while.
There's been a lot that's gone on since the last time we talked. We had a few episodes there in the pipeline, and
yeah,
it's had to have been at least 3-4 weeks since we've spoke.
Well, probably a month, because I traveled for over a month.
That's great.
And
I'm looking forward to catching up.
Yeah,
I have high expectations of catching up with you. You see what I did there?
You want to dive right into it? Where were your expectations recently?
Oh my gosh. So we went on a hog hunt in Texas, and we had this planned for a while. We had this planned probably since, I want to say, like December, like Christmas time. Mm. And my good buddy, who I met at one of the jiu-jitsu camps, awesome dude. He lives in Texas, and he's done these hog hunts before. And so like he set everything up. Like, he managed everything, and kudos to him. Like, I kept trying to jump in and help, and he really set it up well. It was just that our expectations didn't meet our reality, because if you're in the hunting scene, right, if you're listening to this and you're in the hunting scene and you hear about a Texas hog hunt, one of the very first things that probably comes to mind is like machine guns out of like helicopters and like shooting pigs from the sky. Because that's
your expectation?
No. But that totally. Oh yeah, if that was my expectation, I would be severely disappointed. No, but like, I've looked into it, and like, it's expensive. It's like a $3,000 trip per person.
Wow.
But you're flying around in a helicopter with a fucking machine gun shooting at pigs.
Oh, that is something.
Oh yeah, it's real. Yes, it is. Absolutely. So to explain to everyone, right, hogs in Texas they're feral, and they're considered a pest. So their gestation period is, I'm not sure of their full gestation period and how it works, but they have, I don't know if they're called litters or what. They give birth 3 to 4 times a year.
Okay.
Yeah, so their gestation period's like every quarter. Like, they get pregnant, they give birth, they do it, and they just do it over and over. And like, every litter, I don't know if it's a litter, is like 6 to 8 pigs.
Okay.
So you could have all the helicopters in the sky with all the machine guns, and you still wouldn't be able to control the pig population in Texas. And that's not just Texas, that's like throughout the South.
Yeah.
Georgia, Louisiana, Alabama, these wild hogs are everywhere, and they just damage the hell out of like farmland, and they eat crops, and they're a pest, right?
How did they become wild? Like, so wild?
They were released. They're not native.
Yeah.
I don't know the whole story, but they were released. They were never native to the South to Texas, and they were released and introduced into the area, and because of their gestation period and the way they reproduce, of course it became a problem. You put them anywhere, they're going to become a problem.
Yeah.
As long as they can flourish. It's really interesting because like we don't have hogs in Colorado, and the climate, although much more brutal in the winter, right, it isn't very different. It's very arid, and so I don't know what the deal is there, but it's the hog issue is definitely like pertained to like the South, like Texas, Alabama, Louisiana, all that.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, you go to Texas to hunt these hogs, and you can do it however the fuck you want. There are no rules. You don't need hunting licenses. You need nothing but landowner permission, because most land in Texas is private. So you run into two things, right? You run into one, farmers, ranchers that know what they have, and they charge you for it, right? So they know they have tons of pigs, and they know people are willing to pay, and they charge you for it, and they limit the pigs, and they don't let you camp on their property, and there's all these restrictions. And then there's, the really like, these private landowners that have a lot of land, that have pigs everywhere, that have helicopters and machine guns and thermal and night vision scopes, and they give you it all, and you pay all sorts of money to do it. And then there's like what we did, which is like $175. You go to this rancher's property, they put you in a blind by a feeder, and you wait for the pigs to come, and you use your own shit to harvest your animal. And so, but when you look outside of like the helicopters and machine guns, right? When you look on like the YouTube, when you look on the Google, what you get is, guys out in the dark, because they're nocturnal. So you hunt the night, but they're out in the dark, and like these herds, these packs of pigs come in, 8 to 10 come in, and they get around the feeder, and then you just start shooting, right? Like, and you'll definitely get one, and right, you'll probably get two, right? Like you see these shots, like guys, like pigs lined up, right? Like what you don't want in like elk hunting and deer hunting, like, fuck, I keep hitting my microphone. God damn it. I might not be in the right position. What you don't want in like deer hunting and elk hunting are stacked animals, right?
Yeah.
Because you're going to shoot two by accident or by purpose, right? You just don't want them stacked. In this scenario, you want them stacked. Like if you can get 4 in a row stacked and take the shot, that's huge shit, right? Like that's like,
that sounds wild.
It's wild. It's like the complete opposite of anything that you're ever taught in like big game hunting. And so when you watch the YouTube videos, it's like these guys, and I get it, like these guys are like more advanced. They're hunting hogs all the time. They have like $3,000-$4,000 thermal scopes. And so I'll explain thermal scope real quick, right? So a thermal scope is going to give you a heat signature of whatever's out there, right? You're going to get, right? So if there's hogs in a field at night, it doesn't matter at night. It doesn't matter what's in the way. That's the other thing. So like if they're in like tall grass, a thermal scope will show you the animal, even though they're in grass.
Yeah.
And so like you can shoot blind at a pig in grass with a thermal scope because you have their heat signature. You get the full shape of them and everything. And right, like, so now you're shooting essentially blind, but you're still able to shoot.
Yeah.
Night vision scope is just that. It gives you vision at night. It doesn't give you thermal imaging though. So like you can't see through the grass, right? It just gives you the ability to see if they're in an open field, no grass, that there are pigs there if it's dark, and you can shoot from there. So like when you look at these videos, you see these guys out there hunting, and they're using thermals or night vision, and they're just shooting down pigs. And you're like, yeah. So, right, I don't think I'll regret saying this, but like we expected a pig killing trip, right? I hunt September through November, right? Hunting is hard. Hunting is tough. Hunting sometimes sucks. What we planned, I did not expect to be a hunt. I did not want to be a hunt, right? I wanted it to be the 6 of us going to camp, hanging around camp, drinking beer, shooting the shit, hanging out with each other, roasting some pigs that we killed the day before because there's just so many of them, right? And just the pigs come in and you kill them and you hang them up, and the rest of the time you're just spent at camp. And if you want to go shoot more, you go shoot more, but you just have so many you don't want to shoot anymore, right? Like, that was like the expectation for this. But that is not what happened. That is not, that is like actually the furthest thing. That is the exact opposite of what happened. This was a pig hunt.
Yeah.
And it sucked. It was fucking tough. Like, so I know we've talked a lot about hunting. So so when we hunt elk, we'll just use elk because like elk's like the main thing I hunt, the thing I love to hunt. Right, when we hunt elk, you're up before the sun comes up, you hike, walk to wherever it is that you want to hunt, the sun comes up, and then you start your hunting. And you do that until the sun goes down, and then you go back to camp. You go to sleep, and you lather, rinse, repeat, right? You do it all over again. With this, you go to your stand, right? You don't move. You go to your stand, wherever your stand is, lined up with a feeder. So like they have feeders that feed deer because it's private property, but the hogs come in to eat the deer food. It's usually corn, right? Because these guys are also selling hunts for other animals. They're selling hunts for deer. Some of these ranchers, like these ones that are charging tons of money, have exotic animals. Texas is a crazy place. Texas has all sorts of exotic animals, like African animals. Like, you can hunt pretty much anything in Texas. It's wild. Yeah. That's a different topic. But so you go to your stand. We would go to our stand around 5, 6 o'clock at night. It's still daylight out. You get there before it's nighttime, so you're not disturbing the area. So it's similar to like elk hunting where you're going while it's dark before the sun comes up. So you get there and you get in your stand, and then you sit in your stand from 5, 6 o'clock at night until 8 o'clock in the morning. And you hunt through the night. And you sit in a pitch black stand looking at a pitch black field with a feeder with one green light on it. And you sit there for over 12 hours. And you wait and pray that a fucking pig is going to come in. And no pigs come in. Because they're smart. They know not to go to the feeder because they've been shot at the feeder. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have one pig come to my feeder. 3 nights looking at a feeder, 12, 14 hours a night, not one fucking pig showed up at the feeder. Or that I saw. Because you fall asleep. Like, it's the middle of the fucking night. Like, you're sitting in a pitch black blind. You're looking into a dark field. You can't see shit. Of course you fall asleep, right? Like, so, like, I hunted most nights. So I got there. They say, like, the critical time is, like, right when it hits dark. Like, that's really when the pigs are going to... Because the feeders go off and they make a noise. And apparently that noise is, like, a dinner bell to them. It's, like, Pavlovian dog type thing.
Yeah.
So then, like... And it was crazy. I had 27 deer come to this fucking feeder. 27 deer that I counted while I was awake come to this feeder. Not one fucking pig. And I was so pissed because I'm like, fuck, like, I can't shoot a single deer. And yet, here they are. And not one pig.
Yeah.
So I would hunt. So, well, let's back it up. So the first...
You should have brought your bow and just gone.
I did have
freaking, you should have just...
I did have I did have my bow. I thought about it. So it, like, fuck. It is crazy. So my thought was, like, I would hunt. God damn it. I splashed some coffee on my glasses. I'm a hot mess. I'm a fucking hot mess. Seriously, I am such a fucking hot mess these days. So I brought my AR to hunt because that's like the best option to hunt with. And my thought was I'm going to hunt with my AR for like the first 2 pigs that I kill, right? This is how I had it planned out. Like, I'm going to kill my first 2 pigs with an AR. Then I'm going to switch to the bow so I can get a kill or two with my bow. Right? And like I was gonna hunt during the day, like I was gonna like with my bow, like go chase them down, like find where they're bedded, like elk hunting. Do a little bit of hunting at night, right? Let them come in to the feeder, shoot them at the feeder, that type of thing. Yeah, definitely not how it worked. So.
And you're all posted up at different places.
Yep, we're all alone. Everyone's alone. Everyone has their own stand that they're in.
And then, but you all camp together?
Sure, yeah. If you want to consider what we did camping, yeah.
Yes. Well, what did you do during the day?
Fucking slept. We were all exhausted. What do you do if you stay up all night? You sleep during the day, of course.
Yeah, but that's camping. You just reverse camp. Right?
But like, yeah, like we would get back to the camp. We would get back to camp where we were all staying together, yes. And like we'd get there at like 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. We'd cook breakfast. And then we'd eat. We'd all hang out, talk about our nights and stuff, shoot the shit. It was good, right? I just wish there was more of it. But then we'd all be like, all right, I'm going to bed. But it was so fucking hot.
Oh.
It was so hot. It was like 97 degrees. And I like tried getting in my tent. And it was like a freaking oven. It was like a convection oven. I was like, nope, this ain't happening. So literally, I got my sleeping pad, threw it on the ground, grabbed a pillow, and just slept in the dirt.
Yeah.
And that was like what a couple buddies had hammocks. So, but we got there. So we left. The plan was to hunt Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Right, nights. So, but we got there. We left Thursday. So it's a 10-hour drive from where we live. We drove through the night. We left Thursday at 8 p.m. So we drove through the night. We didn't get there until 6. So we get there at 6 and we get to the property at like 8. We like stopped at Walmart, we grabbed a bunch of supplies, things like that. We get to the property where we're camping, and I figured like we're hunting where we're camping. We're camping where we're hunting. There's pigs everywhere, right? Based on what I know about Texas hog hunting, is there's pigs everywhere. They just pop up and you shoot them.
Yeah.
Right? It's this life of abundance with hogs, and that also is not true. So we got to camp and like I grabbed my AR and I'm like, fuck you guys, I'm out of here. Like I start walking the property.
Yeah.
And like there's hogs, like there's like dead hogs all over the place. Like people like hunted and like it's looking promising. Wow. And I'm like, well, this is cool. Like, all right. And then finally we meet up with, so like I didn't find anything. I'm like, all right, whatever, right? Finally it's early. It's only 2 hours in. I think we're good, right? Don't have a hog yet. That's all right. So we meet up at the rancher, and when he explains to us the way it works, he's like, yeah, you're camping here, but you're not hunting here. I actually have like 6 other properties with blinds and feeders, and we're going to put you there. And each person goes to their own feeder and blah, blah, blah. And we're like, oh, well, that's interesting. And then we're like, all right, so like the best time to hunt, like, he's like, yeah, you get there at like 5, 6 p.m. You just stay through the night. And we're like, oh, okay, cool. So like stay through the night, you mean like after we get a few kills at like midnight, we come back to camp. And he's like, well, yeah, if you get some kills, but if you're waiting around for pigs, you probably just want to stay there because you don't want to disturb the area just until the sun comes up. And we're like, what? Like all of us, you could see like the gears turning now for all of us, like realizing like, wait, we're not going to get sleep. We're going to be stuck in these blinds by ourselves. Not everyone has a vehicle, right? There's only 2 vehicles. So only one person always has a vehicle, and you're far from each other. You're not close. Like you're like 15-minute drives to each person. So like once you're dropped off, you're there.
Yeah. And
only the person with a vehicle has the ability to be like, fuck it, I'm getting in the truck type of thing. So we didn't sleep, right? We drove through the night. Friday comes, right? We're like, all right, well, so like we get camp set up. We like start shooting the shit, we're hanging out. We haven't seen each other in a while. People are coming from all over. We're introducing. There's some new people meeting new people. And of course we don't sleep, right? I think a couple of us took a nap during the day, but not like a full 8 hours. Let's add in, I forgot about this. I have an ear infection. That's fun. So I'm on heavy duty antibiotics and I can't really hear out of my left ear. Yeah, that's that. So like add that to the mix. The antibiotics are tearing through my stomach. So then I'm not sleeping, I don't feel well, to then, hey, let's go to our blinds at 6 p.m. So, and because no one slept, the first night was like a wash. Like, I'm pretty sure, so I got to my blind at 6, I'm pretty sure I said, fuck it, and laid down on the floor in my blind, where there's no window, there's no view out, at like 11:30.
Yeah.
And I woke up at like 4. I woke up a few times through the night to look out the window, and I just saw more deer. I was so pissed. I'd literally wake up, look out, I'd see deer. I'd be like, you fucking assholes. All right, go back to sleep. Woke up at 4, sat there until like 8, and then left. Mm-hmm. And no one saw or got anything that first night.
Yeah.
And we all got back to camp, and you can see we're all miserable. Like, no one slept. People are just pissed off. No one saw anything. Right? We're still trying to get our understanding of really what's going on. We get to camp, we eat, and like everyone crashes and goes to sleep. And I think that helped.
Yeah.
Right? We all slept probably for like 3-4 hours. Then got up and talked a little bit, and like that was good. That was camp, right? That was like hanging around a bit, eating lunch. But then it was just really like, it was almost like time to do it back all over again. Mm-hmm. And this time I made it to like 2 a.m. before I was like, fuck it, I'm going to sleep. But like, even while you're sitting there, like you're sitting there dozing off. Like you like doze off and you wake up and you're like, and like there's a deer there that wasn't there before. You're like, fuck.
Yeah. So
like you're totally, like pigs could be coming in and out, right? And there's not like an alarm that goes off, right? Just the green light gets a slightly brighter.
Yeah.
On one of the motion sensors. So night 2, I had a pig come in, and while I was sleeping, and I woke up and I saw it in the field, but it wasn't at the feeder. I could see, so it was a full moon. That was really nice. That helped.
Yeah.
But it was still pitch black. Like I'm looking into this pitch black field, and I see this hog, and like I'm trying to get lined up for a shot, and also like I'm about to break a rule that like I would never thought I would break in hunting, is like properly identify your animal.
Yeah.
Like, it's fucking pitch black. Like I see a silhouette. I'm like pretty sure it's a pig. But it could also be a cattle.
Yeah.
Fuck, it could have been a horse. Like, I don't fucking know. Like,
yeah.
But, like, it resembled a pig, right? Based on the moonlight. And I'm like, all right, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to shoot it. But, like, I wasn't comfortable with the shot, so I didn't shoot it. And then it ran off. And that was, like, my only opportunity.
Yeah.
Where I probably should have just shot it, honestly. So, a couple other people had some encounters. Nothing. Like, no one's having... Right, one other guy had like a similar encounter. He took a shot, but he missed it. And then that was that. And like after that night, right, we hung around. And the next day was Easter Sunday, and that was great. So let me rewind a little bit. We get back to camp the first night, and the rancher had captured 3 pigs.
Yeah,
and he put them in a crate. And he said, you guys can have them.
Oh.
So we got some consolation pigs. And one of the pigs was small-ish. So we actually killed that one and smoked it on Easter Sunday. And we had
nice.
Yeah, a really nice roasted pig. We had a lovely like Easter dinner. It was really nice. And like that's what I expected like more of. Like we sat around, we shot the shit, the pig was smoking. You know, if people had some beers, we hung out, we talked. Like that was more along like my expectations and like more of that. So yeah, it was. And then the third night, I didn't see anything. And one of our friends, so 6 people went, right? And only one person actually shot a hog.
Oh.
Right? The other 3 hogs that we got were trapped by the rancher, and we harvested them and split them up evenly between a few of us. And it was fun. I wouldn't do it again the way that we did it. I would absolutely go hog hunting again, but I wouldn't do it the way that we did it. Because again, I hunt September through November. I hunt a lot. And it's not that I don't like hunting. It's just that hunting's a lot. And by the time September comes back around, I'm happy to hunt again. But by the time November is over, I'm happy to be done hunting. Does that make sense? Yeah. Right? Like, it's a lot. You do it, right? Like, it's a lot. You spend all your time, like, if you're, especially like me, like, I spend a lot of time driving to where I'm going to hunt, and a lot of time hiking, and like, being, you know, not
and then figuring out when like your whole life is like, okay, should I not do this so that I can go out?
Right.
Or, you know, you're just managing your time, trying to maximize until you harvest something, but trying to maximize how many days out you can
Absolutely
get hunting.
Absolutely. Yes, 100%. And that's not what I wanted with this. Like,
Yeah.
I wanted wild meat, but I wanted it like 99% odds of getting it. Right?
Wild meat, that's eating corn from a rancher?
But,
Come on.
but it's but it's not just eating corn. It's so here's something interesting that I learned. This is really interesting. I don't know if you know this. Pigs are omnivorous. Did you know that?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Yeah. I didn't. I had no clue. So, pigs are omnivorous in the wild.
Yeah.
Pigs that we buy from the grocery store that are fucking grain fed and all the bullshit that we, right, like we buy pork from the grocery store. So you know how they lowered the cooking temp? Have you heard, like, do you know that, like, they lowered the cooking temperature of pork, of edible pork? So, like, it used to be 165
Okay.
degrees or higher, right? Which is well done of any meat, right? Like chicken, 165 degrees. Beef, 165 degrees is well done. Pork, 165 degrees, well done. That's any meat. Pork, in like, I don't know when exactly this happened, but in our lifetime, because it used to be don't eat raw pork. And now I went to a restaurant where they served me seared fucking pork, and I'm like, that's disgusting.
Oh.
Yeah, so they've actually lowered the cooking temperature of pork. Here's why. Because the pork that we're buying, that we're eating at restaurants, is essentially vegetarian. So the problem, so when you, the reason why you weren't supposed to eat raw pork before was because of trichinosis, which is a parasite. It's a worm.
Yeah.
And
Which is why you have to really cook bear.
bear, exactly. It's why you have to cook any animal that eats meat.
But what about fish? Fish eat other fish. My
Great
walleye
question.
had another walleye in there.
Great question. I don't know the answer to fish. That's a great
Well,
question.
they've got a whole. We learned from my ceviche
Yeah, yeah. See, don't eat ceviche.
that
Never eat the ceviche.
there's plenty of worms and bacteria in fish.
Oh, ceviche. Even that word alone gives me the cringes.
Now it does.
And
Actually, I
never-
had a friend who was like, "Do you want to stay for dinner? I could make some sushi and a salad." And I was like, "I would love to stay for dinner, but unfortunately, I'm off the raw fish right now. But I'll eat a salad."
Oh, that's awesome. You will never eat ceviche again. I promise you.
Yeah, probably not.
Don't do it. Please don't ever do it. Never think it's
Well,
safe.
and I told you, it's like I listened to a podcast like a couple months ago, and they were talking about sushi, and the gal was like, "I will never eat sushi again." Like, she does like nutrition, but with like muscle testing and like detoxifying cleanses and stuff like that. And she said, she's like, "Yeah, that's the one thing that I suck to give up, but I just won't ever." Like, I can't even, like, think about it the same knowing what is in, like, raw fish. Just, like, the worm, like, the bacteria and the worms that you can get.
Oh, my
So,
gosh.
I
That's
remember
so gross.
hearing that, and I'm like, like, I used to eat a lot of sushi in my LA days.
See, I only eat the cooked sushi. Like the
Okay.
tempura battered, and I can't do the raw stuff.
Yeah. Now
It's
I
a
feel
good thing.
like I
That's-
don't know if I will.
Yeah, that's pretty gross.
Definitely not ceviche.
And ceviche is supposedly cooked. No, it's not.
Yeah.
It just
Well,
looks cooked. We
it's
covered
just,
this already.
it doesn't even look cooked,
No,
though.
it doesn't. It doesn't.
It's just the acid, like, I don't know.
The acid
whatever.
turns it to that white color that
But it doesn't even turn everything to that white color.
right.
Depends on the fish.
Right,
Like, it just, yeah.
Yeah, I don't trust it. I'll never trust it.
Ooh.
I've never eaten ceviche because any person I know that has eaten ceviche gets sick.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm good.
But, like, that's what I'm wondering, because, like, I will have, like, seared tuna, right? Like, which is
Yeah.
not fully cooked.
Cooked, right? Raw in the
But,
middle,
like, fish are eating fish. What's happening there?
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know about fish, but I know
Yeah.
that hogs,
Yeah.
bear, mountain lion, anything that eats other meat is susceptible to trichinosis.
Okay.
Particularly, right, like we eat meat. We're not talking about eating humans here. We're not cannibals.
I was about to make a joke, and I was like, ooh.
Well, I brought it up. It was funny, like when we were having this conversation at camp, I brought it up. I was like, wait a second, so if I eat human meat, I have to cook it all the way, or what?
Yeah, depends if that human ate raw meat or not.
So that's the issue is,
yeah.
What's the source of the meat that they're eating? Is like, when you think about like what a bear's eating, it could be like rancid meat. Right? Like it's been baking in the sun. Like they don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Right? Like you think about like what a pig's eating. A pig's eating these field mice, these, right? Like these bugs. It's chomping off of guts and garbage that from like hunters, like dead animals that have died, like coyote, right? Like, so it's not that they're eating clean, good meat, right? So we think that's the big thing.
And it's not, they're not cooking it.
They're not cooking it, exactly, right. Right. They're not firing up the oven and let me make sure this is 135 degrees, right?
Yeah.
So pigs are omnivorous, but because farmed pigs are only fed grain. Mm-hmm. They're not fed meat. They're only fed grain.
Yeah. And
you think about, right, I had another epiphany with this too, right? So if you think about like a wild pig, a wild hog, they're very lean, right? Just like other wild animals, elk, deer, right? They're all very lean, not very fatty. Well, pigs, everyone, right, assumes pork is fatty.
Yeah.
And they are, but what are they fed? Grain.
Yeah, just like cattle.
Just like cow, right.
Just like American.
That's exactly where I went. That is exactly. I was like, oh my god.
It has spread to Western civilizations. I should say that at this point. I think we've Americanized a lot of diets.
Absolutely, and right, like if you look at these diets, you look at these countries, even these third world countries that have starvation issues with low caloric intake, but they still suffer from obesity. It's because of their diet, and what they're eating is grains, right? You look at these, right, hogs.
Where would you say that?
A lot of African nations are eating like rice or in Mexico.
But they're dealing with obesity?
A lot of them, obesity and diabetes, yep. And the caloric intake isn't, it's pretty wild. Ganesh.
Well, I thought it was the introduction of like processed food, because like that is happening in some area in Southeast Asia where.
Which is great.
Their health was, well, no, not necessarily.
Most grain has to be processed in order for you to actually eat it.
I'm thinking more of like packaged processed food, right? Mm-hmm. So like, I can't remember what country it was in Southeast Asia, but like they used to have like their markets were always like, bring your stuff, fill it up from these bulk things. And then it turned into all this packaged food and pushed out those, that food source. But the other thing is like grain back in the day wasn't bad for you. It's what's happening. It's how the grain is being produced now.
And how much
back
of it
in the day.
Like how much of it we consume. Right? Like it went from a little bit of our diet to a lot of bit of our diet.
Well, I think the sugar, I mean, I guess it is
and that's the thing is the process, right? Like grain has to, you can't just grab wheat necessarily and just crunch down on like wheat or whatever other grains are, right? Like there has to be a process to get the grain from it that becomes edible. Mm-hmm. And so, so Ganesh, if we wanted to go deep into this, Ganesh is a great guy. We should have him on, and he can talk to this. He's really smart and knows all about like these impoverished nations that are dealing with all sorts of obesity. Mm-hmm. And when you think about like even back in like the royalty days, like what did the royals eat? The royals ate meat. And what did the poor and impoverished eat? And it was grain. Right. So the warriors, the elite had access to the good quality foods, the meat, and then everyone else just got the grains. So grains are fed to pigs to make them fat. Same with cattle, right? And why would that be any different for humans, right? we feed grains to humans, and it becomes the major part of our diet, including, right, the sugar process, sugar laden crap. And
But people were eating grains like 100 plus years ago, and there wasn't an obesity problem.
but not to the level. They were eating other things too.
Yeah.
And they were working
on farms, so they were more active.
And look at the vegan diet. Mm-hmm. Right, like a vegan diet is grains and sugar.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right, like whereas, yeah, right, like the activity levels too absolutely plays a huge role in it.
Well, and fake food, like I think I don't know, I wouldn't like put it all on. I think it's because again, like back in the day, the grain was because could be produced and probably more substantially. Mm-hmm. But I think the quality of grain and what I can't remember where I read this recently because they're like it's really actually hard to find like grain that hasn't been I wouldn't even know if it's not GMO but just how they've altered grain but yeah anyway
and I'm making more of the correlation too, like you're feeding pigs to get them fat to kill them, to slaughter.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and they're not eating meat. And right. Like, and that was just like that's a weird thing. Right. Like, think about like the obesity problem in just America alone. Right. I can't speak to it for other nations, but in America alone, you look at the diets, right? It's processed sugar laden crap and a lot of grain. And continue to be, don't eat meat. Meat's bad. Right. But my point in saying all that is that because these pigs aren't eating meat, you can now eat them at a lower rate. But that's also not true, or a lower cooking temperature.
Yeah.
But that's also not true because, like, you can't stop field mice from coming in these slaughterhouses and where the pigs roam and feed. Like, you don't know what they're eating.
Yeah.
So, right, they are omnivorous by nature. So if the opportunity presents itself, they are going to eat whatever they can eat. Wild pig, right? You have to cook it all the way. I don't know why did we start talking about this? Total tangent here, but yeah, like wild pig is omnivorous. Because you said right, they're only eating corn. How are they wild? They're not all.
I was giving you crap for this.
Yeah. They are eating corn, right? They're being fed essentially by these ranchers, these farmers, but they're also eating whatever else they can find, right? And
is that why the deer are so big in Texas? Because they're eating corn as well.
Yes, but that's like you think about like, yes, yeah, right. It's because
when you think about those hunts, right? Like
right
in those areas where they talk about how huge the wild game is, and I'm like, well, is it still the same quality as something that you'd get?
So yes. So the thing to think about is that even like wild deer in, let's say, like Wisconsin, and I can speak to this slightly because my good friend hunts his private property in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And what the deer are eating in Wisconsin is corn and soy. And it's because they're eating the crops.
Yeah. That's what my friend from Nebraska, his first deer that he shot was massive. Like he's never shot something that big ever again, but it was because it's eating off the cornfields in Nebraska. Right.
And that's also why the taste of like whitetail, which is like more Midwest, East Coast deer, versus mule deer, which is like our mountainous deer that we get to hunt. That's why they taste very different. And
we get both.
Yeah, you do. But I'm not a big fan of the taste of mule deer.
Okay.
And it has to do with what they eat, right? So mule deer eat sage, which is really weird because that's what elk eat too. But elk is delicious.
Yeah.
But mule deer, like when you're processing a mule deer, like in the field, like the smell of sage, it is rough. And like the taste, it is a very gamey taste. Whereas whitetail, that especially like in the Midwest, so like in like the Midwest, whitetail mainly eat soy and corn, which is sweet, right? So what does it do to the meat? It makes it sweet. And then you think about like East Coast deer, whitetails, what are they eating? They're eating apples. Because like especially like New York State, like a lot of whitetail up in New York State, there's just apple orchards everywhere. So these deer are just eating apples. So what are they going to taste like? Right? They're going to taste like what they eat. And so that's
But
why
I would say our whitetail probably eats sage and stuff, and I think it's,
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Whitetail here and in the Black Hills in South Dakota, and
yeah, I haven't had whitetail from one of those places. So I've only eaten whitetail from like corn-fed, soy-fed areas. I haven't even had the apple-fed ones, like New York, Pennsylvania. So it would be really interesting to see.
And I don't mind. And see, that's the thing is like I don't mind mule deer.
Yeah, I can't stand it.
If it's.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so who knows? Like what's wild anymore, right? Especially in Texas, like everything is private land, and you know, a lot of these guys, they see it as revenue, right? Because the deer are so plentiful, the whitetail are so plentiful that, you know, set out feeders and charge people to hunt whitetail. I saw 27 deer.
Yeah.
Right, 27 deer in one night at a feeder.
Yeah.
Right? That just has, like, you know, capitalism written all over it. But yeah, so it was good. It was a fun hunt, a fun time at camp, but I wouldn't do it again. My expectations were very different than what the reality was, and that's where the disappointment came in. And then to end the trip, here's a doozy. This is the doozy of all doozies. So we packed up, loaded everything up in my truck, in the bed of my truck, strapped everything down, good. So I thought, and there was this one bin on top that, we strapped it down. Like my buddy Jeff strapped it down, and I even checked it. I was like, that's, it has strap going this way, strap going this way. Like, thought it was like perfect, and started driving, and we got probably about 6 hours from where we started.
Yeah.
So from camp, we got about 6 hours away, and noticed that bin was no longer in the back of my truck. So the decision was, do I drive potentially, right? We have no clue where we lost it.
What was in that bin?
Well, I'll get there.
Okay. Well, that would determine if I turned around or not.
It sure would. And so, and this is why the decision I made was the decision I made, is because of what I thought was in it. What I thought was in it was also different than what was actually in it. So, I was like, all right, we have 6 hours of driving potentially. So additional 12 hours on a 10-hour drive.
Yeah.
Right? If we had to go all the way back, right? Like, who knows? Maybe it would have been in like the last 45 minutes of driving.
Yeah.
But we don't know. So I sat around and I thought, all right, what's in it? I'm like, all right. It was an important bin. It was hunting gear. And I was like, all right, camo, a few calls. And like really, like I came up with the conclusion, like, all right, it was probably like $600-700 worth of stuff. And in time, effort, and gas, I would probably pay that to do the drive back.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? It's not worth it. I don't want to do this to the two other guys in my truck, right? Potentially I had 12 hours of driving as well.
But it was your stuff, not
it was my stuff. It was my stuff. Yep.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, all right, that sucks, but it's just clothing. And I chalked it up to it's just clothing. We should be good. When I got home, I realized it was not just clothing. And I would have then driven back, and I would have said, sorry guys, we're doing this. Because there was probably about $3,000 worth of glass in there. My binoculars, 2 rangefinders, a spotting scope. All of it was in there.
Shit.
And yep. So I own 0 glass now. I have no binoculars, no rangefinders, no spotting scope, nothing. Rangefinder cases, binocular cases, all of it. And then add the camo that was in there, right? Like, it was a very expensive bin that went bye-bye. So in my binocular case, there's a hidden pocket. It's not hidden, but it's hidden. Right? My binocular case sits on my chest, and there's a pocket that sits against my chest on the backside.
Yeah.
And in there, I keep a hunting license.
Yeah.
And it has my name and address in it.
Yeah.
So before I do anything, I'm like waiting a week or two to see. if somehow, some way, someone picked up some shit,
Yeah.
happens to look in this tiny ass sort of hidden pocket, has the willingness to look at that tag, find my name, and then, right, no phone number, nothing, right, like either reach out on social media, or if the address is on the tag, right, like send me a letter.
Yeah.
Right, like so many things would have to happen, right? I believe humanity is good, and I believe if it came up, like they would do it, but I don't think that they're gonna find the tag even.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna wait and see what the universe has to offer. Putting it out there that the universe is good, and either way, either someone, because what's great, all my glass is really high quality, and I buy Vortex brand,
Yeah.
and Vortex has a lifetime warranty. Period. No questions asked. So if I had all that stuff and every piece of glass was broken, I would send it all back to Vortex and they would send me all new stuff.
Yeah.
And for that reason alone is why I only buy Vortex. So either one.
Doesn't Leopold have that or no?
They might. I don't know. But Leupold is very expensive. Much
but they're
more.
American, the Japanese glass, but it's produced in the United States, and Vortex isn't anymore.
They're not?
Not anymore.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
I wonder why. I wonder what politics were involved in that one.
I know.
Let's not get into that. But I've been a fan of Vortex. And
No, I'm not trying.
Yeah.
Well, because like I was talking to someone recently about like, well, actually, like when I try to look and try and find American-made stuff, and it's more expensive, but I'm like, well, I'm gonna pay for it because it's American-made.
Right.
Because we vote with our dollar, but
we sure do.
Anyway, I was looking at those were the two I was looking at, and I think I ended up finding a sale for my scope, and that's why. Yeah, and that's where I went that way.
And to my knowledge, like Leupold glass is like above any glass ever, right? Like I've never had Leupold, so I can't speak to it. Yeah. But I have had Vortex and I love it. And
yeah. I think a lot of my friends have a lot of Vortex.
Yeah. But. So either a new person got them and now has awesome hunting glass, and even if it's broken, hopefully they know that there's a lifetime warranty and they can send it back and get brand new hunting glass.
Yeah.
Or the person knows what its value is and knows what it means to me and found my tag and is going to reach out to me, and in either way, someone's going to benefit from it.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that. And so and then I'll just have to buy all new hunting glass. But I probably won't. Like I need binoculars and a rangefinder. Like so that's going to be where I go.
My friends recently found in the river or washed up on the shore a waterproof hard container. And they pulled it out, whatever, took it, they were fishing, and they opened it, and it was this really fancy camera. And there was a receipt in it. And so they contacted the person.
I hope.
And found, luckily I think there was a phone number on the receipt, or I don't know, but somehow they were able to contact him, and the person said they would pick it up, and they hadn't, and they were thinking they probably filed an insurance claim. And so then they're not really it's not like a urgent thing for them to get it back, because I'm sure it happened in the summer, or horse packing, fell off a horse, and they
didn't know.
Yeah, and so they're like, I bet they filed an insurance claim.
Yeah, and I've thought, right, I have homeowners insurance, and because it's so much glass and so much value, I'm probably gonna look into it. It's not right. I don't want to just go out and just buy all new glass if I can get it covered by my insurance. But I still have faith in humanity, and that's why I'm waiting. Again, right? I'll give it time. Right? The only thing that's there is my name and an address. Yeah. So the way to get a hold of me is social media and mail me a letter. Yeah. Right? So I'm going to give it time. Right? So we'll see what happens, and we'll go from there. Yeah. And, but yeah, it sucked. Don't get me wrong. Losing that much fucking sucks. And what's crazy is any of my other bins had like camp cookware
Yeah.
and like air mattress.
Now
like,
you'll never put that bin on top.
I will never put that bin outside of the truck. All glass will be in. I don't care how many people are in my truck. Here, you're holding my binoculars. You're holding all my tough. Like, yeah.
That is not a bin to go on top.
It sure isn't. It sure isn't.
One thing, little side note for our listeners, renter's insurance is really, even if when I moved into my car, I did this before, but when I lived in my car, I kept renter's insurance because I had so many valuables inside. So if someone breaks into your car and steals things, renter's insurance covers it. And I learned that because my friend got his truck broken into, all of his camping gear stolen, and renter's insurance covered it.
We're not insurance agents, and we cannot give you advice on insurance policies.
Oh, yeah.
Disclaimer. However,
yeah,
Bree is mostly right, and I'm sure there's some exemptions out there. But yes, I agree. And same with homeowners insurance. Like having homeowners insurance doesn't only protect your home; it protects your valuables.
Properties.
Right. And so that's why, it was on my truck, but my truck is my property. Everything that was in the bin is my property, and therefore, I should be able to file a claim against that using the thing that we pay for insurance for, right? Like, right? Like we don't want to have to use our insurance, but that's also why we pay for it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Also, we're not insurance agents, and we cannot
confirm
or deny whether or not you will be covered. Just need to make sure that's said.
Yeah. No, it's when I learned that, I was like, oh crap, I'm going to get renter's insurance just for even before I moved into my car. It's like, how often do I have like
shit
gear,
sitting in your car at the trailhead?
At the trailhead, or you like go meet up with people after climbing or something, and you've got all of that in there.
You got your bike in the back, you go to eat lunch, right? Yeah. It's a big problem here in Colorado right now. Like people like go mountain biking, then they meet at the restaurant or the brewery.
Yeah.
They go in, they come out, and their mountain bike's gone.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I would not leave it outside in my car.
You and me both. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it's happening, right?
Yeah.
And this is right. Like this is how you protect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So the long story is everything you heard. The short story is expectations are a motherfucker. And this applies to anything, right? Like, to live a life without disappointment is to live a life without expectations. And it's a fine...
But is disappointment bad?
Agreed, right? Like, it's bad. So I'm reading a book right now. Mm-hmm. And I've always said this, but I'm reading a book right now, and I really am enjoying this book, even though it's the most confusing, perplexing... angering book I've ever read. But it's so frustrating. But it's also enlightening. It's called Dropping Ashes on the Buddha.
Okay.
And it's these stories of this Zen master. And he goes into, he covers, you have to read it to really understand why I'm using the words I am to describe the book. Because it's really fucking confusing. And he says some shit, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, I don't get it. But then he'll say something later, and you're like, oh, I get it now. And then, like, someone asks you, can you explain it to me? Like, I can't explain it to you. I don't know. But, he's like, what's good? What's bad? Right? They talk about this a lot in yoga. Like, good and bad, we just apply these words. Right? Is disappointment good or bad? It's neither. It's just right? Disappointment is the... effect of expectations and your expectations not being met. Right? So know that, right? Like live a life without expectations, and you can expect less disappointment in your life. But if you're going to have expectations, know that disappointment is an option. Right?
Well, I would almost say like you can have expectations, but let go of attachment to the results.
Yes.
Right? Whether they're met or not.
Right.
Because the disappointment isn't when they're not met, it's your reaction to them not being met.
Agreed. Yes. Agree with that. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not bad or good. Right? Nothing is bad or good. Right? It just is. We, as meaning-making machines, landmark, go, right, like, we apply, we have to, things happen, and then because we're meaning-making machines, we have to be like, that's bad, or that's good, and you don't have to, right? Like, you don't have to do that. Right? That might be a hard concept for you to grasp, but you don't have to do that. And it just is, right? Like, I tripped and stubbed my toe. It hurt. Like, there's pain. You feel something physically. But that's not bad or good. We apply that it's bad because we now are experiencing pain, and right. But then it's also good because if you were dead, you wouldn't be able to feel that, and therefore, but you'd be dead, right? So maybe you don't feel pain, but now you can't feel it. Or if you're paralyzed and right now you can't walk, and now you can't stub your toe, right? That seems pretty good to me.
Yeah.
Right. So like, it's all about, right, perspective, and but we don't need to have bad or good, right? I prefer, right, like, if you're going to apply labels, I always tell my yoga students this, like, if you want to use labels, difficult and easy are better, right? Because stubbing your toe is difficult, right? Like, you stub your toe and ow, it fucking hurts, and depending on how hard you stub it, maybe you break your toe and right, you fall to the floor, and maybe you cry, and right, it's difficult to deal with. It's not bad or good, it just is.
Yeah. I like using, well, it's all, I think it's all preference, right? And then working towards not being controlled by preference.
Yeah.
But, or like, not necessarily with toe stuff, but personal action is like serve and doesn't serve you.
Yeah.
Versus good and bad.
Absolutely.
But linguistics.
Yeah, word choice, right? We had a whole episode we've talked about word choice, and I want to share. So I want to share this. So I'm really enjoying this book, even though it's confusing and infuriating and all the things. But I want to share this quote. Like, this quote is actually probably one of the most things that has made a lot of sense to me out of this book, and I think it's relatable to like expectations. And it has
I
to
don't
do
even know if this episode was about expectations.
it was more about hunting.
I think we don't need to.
But
share the quote.
Yeah, but it has to do with, right, like, it has to do with love.
Yeah.
Right, and he talks about love, but I think there's this, when I read the quote, I think you'll understand, but like, there's this tie, like, love, there's expectations on, he says there's two versions of love. There's small love and there's big love. With small love, there's expectations. Right, and I'll read the quote.
Conditional love and unconditional love.
Essentially, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Right, which is small love is conditional, big love is unconditional.
Yeah.
So, but the way he writes it, I love it. And like, I shared it in yoga class. Like, I'm gonna make a post about it on social media. Like, I just love, like, it really, because my life is
big love it.
I big love it. I do. I big love it because, right, like, in these workshops I've been teaching, like, I tell people, like, I love you, like, I love everyone. I think I mentioned it on the class, on this episode, or not this episode, on our podcast. Right, like, love is abundant, and you don't run out of it. It's not metered, right? Like, we can give as much of it as we want away. And so I'll read the quote. The quote reads, quote, "There are two kinds of love. The first is small love. This is desire love, opposites love, attachment love. The second is big love. This is absolute love. It is freedom. If you have desire for yourself, your love is not true love. It is dependent on many conditions. If these change, you suffer. Suppose I love a girl very much, and she loves me. I go away to Los Angeles, and when I come back, she has another boyfriend. My love changes to anger and hatred. So small love always contains suffering. Big love has no suffering. It is only love, absolute love. So there is no happiness and no suffering. This is bodhisattva love. With big love, I have no desire for myself. I only give my love to other people. If I love you and you don't love me, that's okay. I will still give you as much love as if you loved me in return." End quote. And like, I think it's so powerful, the way he says it, and right, like, we all experience and have experienced conditional love.
Mm-hmm.
And to say that, like, you can only be big love, right? Like, no, like, we all, like, it's work.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it all has to do with, like, expectations and understanding, right? Not being attached to the expectations,
Mm-hmm.
right? In a relation, right? Like, in a relationship, telling someone, oh, I love you, and them not saying it back.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Small love is the anger and, like, wait, why didn't they say it? Like, it's the confusion, the,
Mm-hmm.
do they not love me too, right? Like, big love is
Like,
just
are you
the,
only saying it because,
you want that back?
yeah,
Right.
versus
Yeah.
speaking truly from, like, if it's truly from the heart, it doesn't matter
Right.
what the other person says or thinks.
Right. And I don't know if I shared the snake story, the snake in the fire on this show. I have, yeah. So, like, it's the same thing, right? I'm not going to share the whole story again, but, like, the guy tries to save the snake out of the fire. The snake bites him. He drops the snake again, right? He picks the snake back up with a stick, right? And the second guy's mad at him. Why? Because the snake bit him, and the first guy's like, but yeah, that's what snakes do. They bite. Like, he had love for the snake no matter what. He knew what the snake did.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, that's big love.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's really hit home for me. Like, being able to love unconditionally.
Yeah.
And, right, get rid of the expectations of who's going to love you. And, right, like, as long as you love you, you need to love you unconditionally too.
Mm-hmm.
So. Journal. And then breath.
Sure.
So grab your journals. You don't have to write about hog hunting unless you've done hog hunting or you want to do hog hunting. If you have questions, reach out to me. We can chat. But maybe that's not, right? Again, remember, we tell our stories on the things that we experience in life. And the hog hunting is, right, it impacts you, right? My story impacts you because of the expectations that I had around it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Replace hog hunting with anything else, right? Replace hog hunting with you're single and you're dating, or you're married and you're dating, or your kids are in school for, in whatever, to play an instrument or whatever, anything that you could have expectations around, your job, right? Replace hog hunting with that thing. And, right, we just share, again, we share from our point. So I would say write about, right, expectations that you have in life. And are you attached to the outcomes of those expectations? And if your expectations aren't met, how do you respond? Right? Do you respond with anger? Do you respond with frustration? Do you respond with violence, abuse, sadness, anxiety, fear, right? If things don't go your way, right? Do you feel like you're losing control? Do you have to be in control of everything? And then when you're not, like, how do you feel about that? Because that has to do with expectations too. It's not about being in control. It's about controlling the outcome, which is, right, your expectation on that thing. That's what being in control is. It's thinking that you can control everything. So write about that. Write about all those things in life. Maybe a recent experience, or maybe something that you have expectations around and you're just unsure, right? And how are you going to detach yourself from the potential outcome? Or another one, a hard one, is, right, you apply for a job that you think you're qualified for. Right? That's a big one that I think a lot of people have experienced. And maybe you don't get it. Right? Maybe you're not as qualified as you think. Again, not bad or good. Maybe look at where you're applying those labels to your expectations, and just write about that, and then write about love, because that's always a good thing to write about. And write about maybe the conditions you put on love, on your love, on giving your love, on receiving your love, how you view love being given to you, whether it's from yourself or from others. Write about unconditional love, what your thoughts are on unconditional. You got to think about that. Unconditional. I said this in yoga today, and I'll end the journal prompt here and turn to breath. A lot of what that quote made me think about, when you think about unconditional love, it's just that, it's unconditional. And And that means it doesn't matter what it is, right? Like, if someone disagrees with your political views, do you still love them? Especially in the last 2 years, right? With Trump being in office and how terrible, quote, terrible Trump was. I'm not saying he's terrible. I'm not saying he's good either. Oh, I plead the fifth on that. But, right, where have you cut off your love because of political views with family or friends? Where have you cut off your love because of views on coronavirus and masks and vaccines? And right, you can't love unconditionally and then have conditions. Right? Unconditional love is just that. So think about that. Write about that. And I'll turn it over to Bree for some breathing.
Cool.
Bree for breathing.
Oh, watch out. So if you are listening to this and doing something, as always, you can keep your eyes closed, but try to kind of soften or blur the gaze. If you can close your eyes, and just take a few moments to observe how your breath feels in the body right now. Just observing the sensations, maybe observing the depth. Is it shallow or deep? The quality of your breath, if there's a texture. Notice which areas of your body receive your breath and where it might feel closed off. And then bring awareness into your heart center. And notice how your heart center feels right now. As you observe it, is there sensation? Does it change? Does it feel open or closed, heavy or light? And then ask, what does your heart center need right now? Does it need to celebrate how it's feeling and soak it in? Does it need to be nurtured? Are there walls that need to be broken down? And whatever it's needing in this moment, start to breathe into the heart center. With every inhale, taking in a little more of what it needs. And then using your exhale to send that unconditional love out, regardless of the state of your heart. And then when you feel ready, you can slowly flutter your eyes open.
Thanks, Bree.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everyone for tuning in.
Yeah.
If you have questions, feel free to reach out. You know how to get a hold of us. It's been real. Thanks for catching up, Bree. Look forward to the next episode.
Sounds good. Talk to you later.
All right. See ya.
Bye.